After the Declaration of Independence was signed by the Second Continental Congress, delegates of the Congress knew that they needed a way to run the government. They created the first governing document for the Americas called the Articles of Confederation. We've looked at that in the last couple of days. The Articles of Confederation were weak for a number of reasons. First of all, the national government couldn't raise an army, couldn't collect taxes, states had almost all of the power, and the federal government had almost none of the power. This became a problem, as was evidenced by a very important event called Shay's Rebellion. Here's the background and here's how it worked. Daniel Shays was an American revolutionary. He had fought in the Revolutionary War. He was a farmer from western Massachusetts. And Daniel Shays became frustrated because after the war ended in 1781 is when the British surrendered to George Washington, and the peace treaty was signed in 1783. So by 1781 to 1783, the war had really come to an end, and states were creating their own laws. One of the problems was that the young United States was in debt to France. France had financed ammunition, had financed supplies for the war, and it was important, many felt, to pay that war debt back to France, because France was viewed as an important ally in maintaining independence against Great Britain. There was a constant fear that Britain could come back at any time and try to re-establish control over the colonies. With that in mind, many states passed high taxes on its people to pay back France. Massachusetts was one place where this happened. Some of the elites passed a high tax that fell primarily on the farmers. So Daniel Shays was a farmer from western Massachusetts. He got frustrated. He ended up really coming to the conclusion that he was no better off under the American leadership in Massachusetts, leadership by people like Sam Adams, than he would have been under the British. He felt that he was not having his voice heard, even though he had just fought a war to win voice in government. And so he got several of his other neighbors and friends, people from his areas in Massachusetts, to join with him. And they picked up pitchforks, they picked up guns. Remember, these are Minutemen. They had fought in the Revolutionary War, they knew how to fight, and they went to take on an attempt to open up the armory, the weapons storage location in Massachusetts. They took the armory, they tried to take those weapons. It took several months for the rebellion to be put down. Eventually, the federal government did manage to get other states to agree to send soldiers up, and they did put down the rebellion. But it took months. The rebellion started in 1786 and continued into January of 1787. By the time this was done, the political leaders were very afraid. The political leaders of the United States were concerned that they wouldn't be able to maintain control, that the Articles of Confederation were far too weak. And so James Madison from Virginia began persuading others that due to events like Shay's Rebellion, and concerned that that sort of a rebellion might take place in other places within the colonies and now states, that there was a need for a stronger constitution, a constitution that would give more power to the federal government. So, Shay's Rebellion was an organized effort by farmers in western Massachusetts who were angry at high taxes. They took those frustrations out against the Massachusetts state government. They had an armed uprising. They threatened to rebel. They demanded a new revolution, really. They thought that their social contract right to property was not being respected by the Massachusetts government. So they threatened a new revolution, and that scared the pants off of revolutionary leaders who had created the United States, people like Jefferson and James Madison. That led them to then create to begin calls for the creation of a new constitution, which we will see developed by 1789, and Constitutional Convention is held in 1787, the same year that Shay's Rebellion took place. So even though James Madison had been calling for a stronger federal government for a while, it took Shay's Rebellion to really convince a lot of people that the new Constitution was going to be necessary, that the Articles of Confederation were just not going to work. And that's what makes Shay's rebellion so significant.